So again, my answer would be no. The actual fact of Israeli power is merely a convenient, perhaps, foil, like you said, but it doesn't change the root causes where the hatred comes from. It just gives it a remarkably respectable cloak, which is why you described people who supposedly come from respectable social circles are able to employ that, not feeling that they are thereby engaging in the low, dirty hatred of the lower classes. And that's also what we're seeing, that it has become a class thing, that anti-Zionism, hatred of Israel, has become a respectable cloak for hating Jews. It's what we see on campuses. And you also, I don't know if you saw it in those letters, those who engage in that hatred, virulent, you really feel it, will immediately take offense at any notion that they're anti-Semitic. They will immediately push it away and say, oh, we're not anti-Semitic, and then go on to say about the worst possible thing about Zionists. Zionists is okay, Israel, and only from that context. So it has become the respectable cloak, and one of the reasons that there's such a kind of pushback against it is that people don't want to let go of that respectable cloak. If you're putting them in the same basket with the deplorables, they don't want to be in that same place. They're professors, they're serious people, they're academics. They cannot be subject to that lowly impulse that does not belong to their kind. So in that sense, I think it still very much remains the same. But with your permission, I want to say something about powerlessness. What I've seen, it's always been a strain, you said, you're right, of Jewish thought. But there seems to be an increase in Jewish thinking, a certain attraction of the moral purity of powerlessness. Kind of saying, and you see it in some extreme forms of anti-Zionism. I recently heard it from the owner of Haaretz, that if it turns out that Israel cannot survive without controlling another people, then Israel has no right to exist. Zionism loses its moral justification. Now, I thought that was a very fascinating kind of moral set, because if we are to engage in acts that are supposedly immoral, then the whole moral foundation for self-determination falls through. The notion that if Israel is not perfect, it loses its legitimacy. And you see it among many Jews. Jews live in America at a remarkable moment where their identity is considered a very desired identity. Literally, except for what we're seeing here and there, Jews are loved. Marrying Jews is a catch. This is a different world. And what you see among many Jews, especially young ones, is they enjoy this beautiful moral status in their society, and there's only one annoying thing. It's this big stain called Israel. So they begin to distance themselves from Israel, initially passively, kind of, look, I don't care about Israel, I don't want to talk about Israel, trying to protect their pristine Jewish identity, and increasingly they do so by actively demonstrating that they and Israel, as to say, are not. But what they're going to discover one day is that no amount of pounds of flesh that they give away will ever be enough. Even Norman Finkelstein, Chomsky, who dared mumble something against BDS for their insistence on the right of return, because even the Jews have the right to self-determination, were immediately called Zionist fascist pigs. And so it just shows you it's never enough. And this is what we have to say about what it really means to be a Jewish moral person. And I'll end with that. In a lot of societies and cultures, being moral comes from how much you disengage from life. You become a moral person when you don't eat, when you don't have sex, when you don't deal with money. When you disengage from life, you ascend as a moral person. Except at the margins, this has never been a major feature of Jewish life. Jewish morality emerges from the notion that you engage in life. You eat a lot. You have sex. You deal with money. You do it through a prescribed set of rules, but you engage in life. And morality emerges from the fact that you flex your moral muscle in dealing with life. And this is what Israel and Zionism have been to the Jewish people. As you said, it has been the greatest, broadest engagement with life. It's about fighting wars and terrorism and having a budget and having a just society and figuring out all these moral dilemmas in the context of Jewish history and civilization. And it's messy. It's not pristine. It's not beautiful. But you actually emerge more as a moral person when you engage and flex your moral muscle in real life than by distancing yourself from it. And that's the message we should have for Jews, and especially young Jews. You have a chance to be moral by living, not by disengaging.